And joining us live from spring training camp in Bradenton, Florida this morning, Bob Walk. Bob, good morning to you.
Good morning. How's everything?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's good to have you with us. Hey, I know, we are always talking about Pirates and what they're looking like and what this pitcher looks like and that hitter and everything. I want to go back and talk to you about your first time in training camp with the Pirates at Bradenton. You'd already been with the Braves, you'd been with the Phillies, and then you walk into the Bradenton complex and you meet your new teammates. What's that like for a player coming to a new team like that and walking into your first spring training camp?
Well, you really are not sure what to expect. It kind of depends, too, on what your personal situation is. For a young guy that's come up through the minor league system, and you have a little bit of an experience with at least the area that you're in, as far as for instance, the Bradenton area here. A lot of the coaches, because minor league coaches come up early on and kind of help out because there's so many people there that are involved. But in a situation when you're coming from a different team, you're really curious as to what's going to happen, because every organization likes to do things a little differently. So you're kind of comparing, what they do with what the experiences you've had in the past. Now, some of these players that maybe you don't like in the past that you've had to try and pitch against, they're now your teammates, and surprisingly, you find out that some of them are really good guys. They're going to become friends of yours on the team, and all the preconceived ideas that you have coming in. A lot of times you have to kind of throw those away, because you really don't know who players are until you sit in that clubhouse with them and spend those hours of kind of waiting sometimes for something to happen and talk with them, and then you start pulling for each other, and by the time you leave to go north, you've made some pretty good relationships, and you feel very comfortable once the season gets started.
I'm assuming your pitching coach then was Ray Miller, right? What was that like?
No, Ray came in later. The first pitching coach we had was Grant Jackson. That's right. I almost went blank there for the Grant Jackson. Actually, Grant was a bullpen coach my first year, but I didn't get to spend any spring training with him because I had gotten released by the Braves toward the end of spring training. I came over here, signed a contract, was here for maybe a day, and then left to go to Hawaii because they were sending me to AAA. But Grant Jackson was the pitching coach the first couple of years when I was here with Chuck Tanner, and pitching coaches are all ex-pitchers, and they know what you're going through, and I've never really not gotten along with one ever. And Grant, a long time, big huge part of the Pirate family. Still see him, occasionally, and it was really easy to get along with him. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure who was on that team when you first came to the Pirates. I'm thinking guys like Jason Thompson and fellas
Jason
like
Thompson was at first base. Johnny Ray was at second. Dale Bear was shortstop. Bill Madlock was at third. Tony Pena was catching. The outfield would have been Frobel. Left field.
Was Milner, Bill Robinson still there?
No. Left field was kind of a lot of different guys. I know that Morrison went out there a few times and started on the left field.
Yeah.
And the center fielder was a young guy that was only there for a short time.
I know.
I can't come up with his.
It was a long time ago.
They were definitely at that point. They were going through a transition. It was a bad time really for the Pirates. It was the middle of the drug trials and all that stuff that went on. It wasn't. It was bad.
It wasn't a happy time, yeah. But by golly, you made it through there. And then you get sent to Hawaii. That's a terrible assignment, isn't it? To have to go spend some time in Hawaii.
Yeah, well, that's when I got released by Atlanta, and through I had a very good relationship with a number of people in the minor leagues that was able to steer me to a phone call with with Chuck Tanner, and Chuck was very pleased to be able to bring me into the organization. But he said that, here at the end of spring training, he goes, I'm busy trying to figure out how to cut guys. I can't bring anybody, more onto the big league team. But he says, if you sign with us and go to the AAA, he goes, if you're doing the job at AAA, I'll get you the big leagues by the middle of the year. No, his word's gold, as everyone knew at the time. So, I said, okay. And then I found out that AAA, I had no idea what a AAA was. And I found out that it was in Hawaii, and I was like, wow, this might actually turn out to be a lot of fun. So it was a good deal. It was a tough travel thing. I mean, road trips were pretty long at the time. You'd be at home in Hawaii for a couple of weeks, and you'd go on the road for a couple of weeks back to the mainland.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the names from that roster from that year. Marvell Wynn was there, and Joe.
Yeah, Marvell Wynn. He was the guy I was trying to think of, the center fielder.
Yeah, Joe Orsulak and Doug Frobe, you met.
Joe was kind of one of those guys that I played with that made the team from Hawaii. I first met Joe over in Hawaii when I signed.
What was it like pitching to Tony Pena?
Tony was very forceful back there as far as what he wanted you to throw. He had a lot of success up till that point already in his career. He was a little, moving around a little bit too much for I like a quieter catcher back there, to be honest with you. He'd get back there, he'd sit down in the dirt and almost lay it, there was a lot of flashiness, a lot of flashiness with him back there. That really is not what I like from a catcher, but everybody's got their own opinions. And the thing that he was known for was that big arm of his. I mean, he could really throw. He had, at that time, the best arm behind the plate of any catcher in the league. And, if you gave him a chance, as far as being just a little bit quick to the plate, getting rid of the ball, he was going to shut down the other team's running game. That was the best thing that he did. That was his big weapon.
All right, I'm running over time with you here, Bob. I'm sorry about that. Jameson Taillon today. Rivera got knocked around again yesterday. Starting to get concerned about him or no?
I don't know. I'm going to be watching him a little bit here, just because he didn't finish real strong last year. So we'll have to wait and see with Rivera. Taillon's fine. No problems there.
Yeah, terrific. Bob, thanks for joining us this week. We appreciate it.
All right, bye-bye.
There goes Bob Walk from the Pirates in Bradenton, Florida. Next week we'll be